Now let's look at week 2 Thursday work. Number one, question number one, if you can check, state 3 factors that increase soil aeration. I think this was done in the last, it was just the same question. And they're here. The 3 factors that increase soil aeration. We talk about the slopiness of the land, types of soil, intensity of rain, lack of plant cover, human activities like construction of roads, overstocking, poor farming methods, mining, and bush burning. So those are the factors, and I think you look at that on that question that we did there. So just refer to the last video. Let's look at question 2. State 2 disadvantages of using manure. State 2 disadvantages of using manure. These are now the organic manure that you make at home, like green manure, compost manure, organic mulches, and maybe farmyard. What are the disadvantages? Okay, number one, when you use this organic manure, they can spread weeds very easily. Okay, they can easily spread weeds. That's a disadvantage. Number two, they are bulky. Okay, meaning they are bigger in size. Therefore, it brings the transportation. It can cost some transportation charges because they're bulky. They need to be transported. Okay, they take time to release nutrients. If you look at the fertilizer that we are going to use, maybe if you're using a fertilizer, the one that you buy from the shop, once you apply them in the farm, they release the nutrients to the soil immediately. But for this organic manure, they take time for them to release nutrients, and that is a disadvantage. Apart from that, they don't contain specific nutrients. When we are preparing this organic manure, we just prepare them, we just prepare them, but we are not sure which nutrient they contain. Okay. For example, you want a fertilizer that contains nitrogen. You cannot use organic manure to supply nitrogen. You have to go for fertilizer and buy the one that is nitrogenous. For example, you buy the CAN, calcium ammonium nitrate. That is a nitrogenous fertilizer. So if you want a fertilizer that contains specific nutrients that you need, you cannot use organic manure. So that's a disadvantage of manure, that they don't contain specific nutrients. We just apply them into the farm and we don't know which nutrients are they going to release. And then finally, they can easily spread pests and diseases to crops. So those are the few disadvantages, but there are very many of using organic manure. Let's look at number 3. Name 2 compound fertilizers. Name 2 compound fertilizers. Remember, we have 2 types of fertilizers. We have compound fertilizers, and then we also have single fertilizers. Okay, so compound fertilizers, remember, these are the one. Okay, we have straight fertilizers and compound fertilizers. Not single. We have straight fertilizers and compound fertilizers. And you remember, when we are grouping these fertilizers, we say that we are grouping them depending on the nutrients that they contain. So compound are those that contain 2 or more major macronutrients. When we talk about macronutrients, you know them, okay? But the major ones, we say there are 3. We have the nitrogen, we have phosphorus, and we have potassium. So when we are grouping these fertilizers, we group them depending on this: nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. So compound contain 2 or more, and we only have 3 of them. We have monoammonium phosphate. That's a compound because if you look at monoammonium phosphate, it contains nitrogen and also phosphorus, the 2. When you come to diammonium phosphate, diammonium also have nitrogen and phosphorus. Then we also have the NPK, or nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. There's a fertilizer called NPK. So these 3 are the compound fertilizers. So I expected you to write the 3 of them or either of the 2. Let's look at number 4. Number 4, question 4. was asking, let's look at number 4. Number four is asking, state 2 disadvantages of using inorganic fertilizers. State 2 disadvantages of using inorganic fertilizers. Now, these one are now the fertilizer that you buy from the shop. Give 2 disadvantages. Number one, they're expensive to buy, because for you to have them, at least you must spend some money to use in buying this. Some of us may not afford that much amount to buy the required amount of fertilizer, so they may end up not buying it. So it is expensive. Number two, these fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers, they don't improve soil structure. They don't improve. Number three, they can also cause soil erosion, soil pollution when excessively used. When you use a lot of it, it may pollute soil. It can increase the acidity of the soil, you know that. And when that happens, it may lower down the soil structure, the soil drainage, the soil capillarity, the soil texture. So it interferes with the soil, okay, when excessively used, or when you use a fertilizer in a given farm or in a given soil for a long period of time, okay. They are toxic to human being, okay. They are poisonous. When you consume them or when you inhale the gases that come from these fertilizers, they may interfere with your health. So they are not safe, especially when handling them. Some of them are even acidic, okay. When you apply these fertilizers into the crops using your hand for a long time, you realize that your hands will even turn, will change, because some of them are acidic and they are very, very corrosive. So they are not safe, especially when one is handling them, okay. Yeah, so they're toxic to human being. And then finally, they can be easily leached in case of heavy downpours. When there's a lot of rain, you see that leaching is the draining of these fertilizers, okay. They move downwards into the soil, and when they leach, meaning they will move and go beyond the roots of the crops that you want to supply with these fertilizers. And when that happens, you will be supplying them more, and there will be no effect in your crops, because these fertilizers, they should reach the crop roots or the plant roots. But when they are leached, meaning they are going to drain and go deeper past the roots, okay. So that's the effect that that you also have encounter when using these fertilizers. They may leach, especially when there's rain. Number 5, what is the function of the platelets? Now, this is now in the human body, the components, the blood components. So platelets, we see that platelets is a component of our blood that is very, very useful, because it helps in blood clotting. And blood clotting, we say that blood clotting is where there's a coating web which is being formed, especially when there's an injury, okay. And when that coat web has been formed, it is going to stop more bleeding. So platelets help in blood clotting, whereby it helps to stop bleeding by providing a coating web at the injured part. That's the function of platelet. Like that, you have written maybe they help in blood clotting. I think that was enough answer. Let's look at number 6. Which one of the following statement is not true about all reptiles? It's not true about all reptiles. The answer there was choice A. They have constant body temperature. That number A was not correct. It was true. It was not true. It was wrong. The question was asking which one is not true. So it is not true to say that reptiles have constant body temperature. Why? Because some of the characteristics of reptiles are here. One, they are cold-blooded. Cold-blooded means their body temperature varies or changes Could there be any change in the environment? Their body temperature also change. So reptiles are cold-blooded. Number two, they lay fertilized eggs on land. Their bodies are covered with dry scales. They breathe through lungs. And lastly, they don't take care of their young ones. These are just some few characteristics of reptiles that I highlighted just for this case. And then finally, there was a diagram there of a made seed. And then you ask that which part consists of the embryo of the seed. Remember, I said that the embryo is a young one of a seed. Okay, is a young one of a seed before the seed germinate into a seedling. Okay, the young one of a seed, not the young one of a plant. The young one of a seed is called embryo. Okay, even the young one of an animal is also called embryo. So embryo is the part that forms the young one. And in this case, we have the plumule and the radicle. The plumule and the radicle are the parts that form the embryo. And you can see the plumule there was part P, and while part N was the radicle. So I expected you to write P and N. Those are the two parts that forms the embryo. And I believe we have revised this. You can check your answer and ensure that you give the right answers for those questions. Have a blessed day. Have a blessed week. And let's meet in our next lesson.